This is my personal learning journey for the course Service Learning and Community Engagement number 870. When I registered the course, I did not know that what does service learning mean. But as I read Button and Clark's texts, and as I shared in the discussion forum, and as I listened to our visitors, John and Heather, I started to better understand what service learning and community engagement are. I work with the Open Door Society and I see many students having practicum with us, but never knew that it is part of the service learning pedagogy. However, now I know. I worked in two schools that did not apply service learning. I believe if I go back to teaching, I will help the school shift to service learning pedagogy. I learned about many service learning concepts, but the one that is most interesting to me is the concept of transformation. From here comes to my mind the difference between traditional service learning and critical service learning. Traditional service learning focuses on learning to serve and serving to learn, and this is reflected in the reflections of the students in the classrooms. However, critical service learning focuses on three things. They focus on the social change, which is transformation for the society, for the community, and it focuses also on the transformation of the students themselves as part of the society too. Second, they work on distribute, like those who believe in the critical service learning, they focus on working to distribute power among community and students, so they must all have voice. And those who believe in critical service learning, they work to develop an authentic relationship between the university, the college, or the school and the community they serve. Now I understand that, as Putin outlines, there are many dichotomies within service learning. However, these dichotomies do not need to exclude service learning as a useful learning method. I thought, or in addition, I thought that in service learning there is no balance in reciprocity. I always believe that the students are not professionals and do not have the skills to induce change in the community. But as our visitor Heather said, that the benefits for the community come through longitudinal projects. I started to believe that there are rewards for connecting post-secondary institutions to community issues. It is rewarding for both the students and the educational institution on one side and the community on the other side. Uh, Moreover, I believe that service learning can be institutionalized as any other discipline, but I learned from Bhutan that there are barriers to disciplining it, such as the political barriers. I was also surprised when he said that service learning is pursuing a wrong revolution and that service learning will not change higher education, but higher education will change it. Another point that also surprised me is what Bhutan mentioned, that when Bhutan mentioned that service learning rejects the banking model of education. I used to think that this banking model is one of the best in Canada and the world. But I discovered that service learning rejects the model and it encourages re engagement of today's students with both academic and civic values. It was clear to me that service learning enhances students' outcomes, fosters a more active citizenry, promotes a scholarship of engagement among teachers and institutions, supports a more equitable society, and reconnects colleges and universities with their local and regional communities. Now I can clearly identify the links between theory and practice of service learning. As I mentioned, I worked for 2 years as a teacher in schools that did not adopt service learning. But if I become a principal of one of those schools, I will make sure to integrate service learning into the curriculum. This will be an opportunity for students to learn about environment and social issues in a real life context. A successful service learning project is more than just volunteering, it involves students applying knowledge and skills to make a difference in their community. There are many key considerations that contribute to successful service learning. First, when I become a service learning a principal of one of those schools, I will make sure that the service provided to the community addresses the community needs. Second, curriculum connection. There should be a distinction between community service and service learning. When I allow youth to engage in service learning, it should involve more than just, for example, serving food or cleaning up. I will make sure that the students are prepared and ready to learn about community issues. I will make sure service learning will address and will be linked to academic subject matter being studied. Third, I will give students leadership opportunities and let them participate in almost all aspects of service learning projects. I will make sure they are team players who are able to work together with school leaders and community partners. I will make sure that they develop communication skills, work ethics, and how to use their resources wisely. Um, Four, I will work to institutionalize service learning in the school. Six, it is important for me to approach service learning in the school from an anti-oppressive stance. Power relations and power balance are very important. Experiencing cognitive dissonance. So, according to this, like my initial understanding of service learning was quite a narrow definition, focusing more on internship or co-op placement. I have several points here to mention about cognitive dissonance. The first point is that I have a greater appreciation that my theoretical and practical education knowledge applies to community engagement and service learning, such as universal design, differentiated instruction, anti-oppressive education, educational theory, and active learning strategies. Second point, if the reward structures for faculty and staff remain entrenched in the bank model of education, then the change to more collaborative service-based scholarship would be fraught with contradictions and conflicts. Third, during the course, I used to think service learning is worthless because of many disadvantages. One of the disadvantages that made me think community engagement is worthless is the fact that neither the academy nor the community are monolithic cultural entities. There are subcultures within both. There are identifiable differences between academic and community cultures that can interfere with attempts to collaborate. What can happen in community university relationships is that people inadvertently break the rules of the other culture. This can lead to breakdown in the relationship. Another point is that universities hold more power than communities they serve. I think the university having more power is just the natural order of things and is no cause for concern. I used to agree with those who believe that real or perceived power differentials can impair campus community relationships. But as I read about the PACE program and the successful examples in Clark's book, I realized that there are advantages that can overcome the disadvantages of community engagement. Although community engagement can be time consuming, can create potential conflicts, can lead to directional shifts, and many other things, these challenges may be overcome through the development of a comprehensive engagement plan that can lead to long-term substantive solutions. Another point that caused political dissonance is is the fact that one of the factors that affect holistically focused reflection in service learning program is the political factor. The political factors set by those controlling higher education determine who is hired among teachers, what is taught in courses, mechanism of assessments, and the content of the courses delivered to students. If the majority of the institution is composed of Democrats, then everything in the institution will be affected by their ideology. In the end, the students will be forced to reflect in a way that fits that ideology, whether in class or in reflecting about their experiences in the field. Their voices will not be heard. What they write or say in their assignment will reflect the institution's and the teacher's ideology. Even the communities serviced will be subject to bias, and thus students' reflections will not cover those opposing that ideology. Therefore, voices of the members within the community will not be reflected in the students' reflection in the programs. Thank you.